Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump just continues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toadstool Sports. This is going to be college basketball edition for tomorrow, Saturday, December 13th. College basketball Saturdays, I mean, these are just gigantic. It is grueling to handicap it, but I just handicapped the entire slate. I'm going to give out 6 plays for tomorrow. So do with these numbers what you want to, I guess. And hopefully the lines all move in my direction and we get better numbers now. I don't know if that's going to be the case. So sometimes, I mean, if it's one of the bigger games and we're fading the public in that game, maybe I would say you could wait and potentially get a better number. But other than that, I think it kind of makes sense to just jump on the numbers. And sometimes you're going to not get the better number. Sometimes the market disagrees with me, whatever. But I'm going based on situation. Hopefully we can keep going. We've had a good college basketball season up to this point, so I want to keep it going, obviously. I'm just doing what I usually do, trusting the process. So let's get to it. This is just way, way too much to do in the morning, man, especially with the bowls starting, and I got to pay attention to that too. So, although tomorrow there's only really one, but yeah. Charles, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right. And I think I put too much emphasis on, like, the small pools that I'm in with, like, friends and whatever, like the confidence bowl mania on ESPN. I got to get these in, man. I got to get them right. Although you can shift around all the confidence values that you haven't used yet in that game. But still, I want to, like, I have, like, a spreadsheet with, like, all the odds, and then I try to, like, I try to do it that way. All right. Let's jump. We're going to jump into this, man. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to do whatever's left of. We're going to talk about the few college football games tomorrow morning. We'll talk NHL and NBA. So I'm splitting it up. Here we go. Men's college basketball, man. We're going to get into the – do you want me to do the best bets at the end of the show? Charles, you're the only one here. What do you want me to do? Best bets at the end, or do you want me to just do them as I go like I have been doing recently? So people have to dig into the episode to even find them. Which one should I do? Because I have one, like, right away in this Michigan State, Penn State game. So, I don't know. Should I just do them as I go? Well, I'll do them as I go. Why not? Best bets. Here we go. First one. You already know what this is going to be, man. All right. Thank you. You already know what this is going to be. We're taking the points with Penn State plus the 12.5. I know I got caught fading Michigan State last time. It didn't go well. But we're going to go right back to it and do it again. I don't like the spot for Michigan State here. This is right away at noon, Big Ten Network. Everything starts at noon tomorrow pretty much. Michigan State ranked 9th in the country. I mean, you know the public's going to come in on one side in this. They're only going to play the Michigan State side. Everybody knows the name. They're ranked in the top 10. Ken Baum does have them slightly worse than that outside of the top 10. They do play slow, and they're up against Penn State here. Penn State, I'm used to them playing fast, although they don't play as fast this year. And, yes, I am worried a little bit that Penn State is very high in Ken Baum's luck index. I usually don't want to look at a team where that's the case, and they have a very weak strength of schedule as well. So we do have to worry about those things. But we're going to do this anyway. Yes, of course, I know Michigan State's the better team, but you're asking them to cover a double-digit spread on the road as a team that they play slow. So if it's a slow-paced game, it makes more sense to be taking points. Michigan State is better defensively than offensively, so another indicator that maybe you should not be laying points with a team like that. The number has gone up on this one, and because it's going to be public, this one, I mean, I don't really think you need to take it right away, but 12.5, 13, 13.5, it's not going to be a huge difference, hopefully. I know today one of the plays I said that, and it landed right on the 18 with Missouri State, so hopefully people found the best number there on that one, because 17.5s are out there as well. This is a low total, 144.5, so taking the points makes sense in that regard as well. But if we look at the situational setup, that's where this comes in, man. Michigan State, they're coming off a few huge games in a row. I mean, they beat North Carolina, very satisfying win back. I think that was a game that was in Florida a while ago. Then they followed that up with a win beating us here on the show by beating Iowa. Iowa in their first true road game, they just couldn't handle Michigan State, man. Michigan State, big win. That was their Big Ten opener. It was at home. Huge win there. Then they had another big game after that where they had to play Duke. And this game was actually, this was at home as well. I thought this was a neutral site, but that was at home as well. And Michigan State pretty much played Duke right to the wire, and they lost by 6. So they're coming off their biggest game of the season, man, against Duke, and they took the loss. So I think this is kind of a natural letdown spot or hangover spot for that reason. When a team comes off a huge game like that where they came close to pulling off a huge win, they can tend to be in a little bit of a flat spot after that. But not only that, but Michigan State took their first loss of the season, so they're no longer undefeated. So when that happens, I also think that's a bad spot, and that also becomes a hangover spot, because when a team isn't used to losing and they lose that late into the season for their first loss, that will tend to hang them over as well. And this is also their first true road game of the season. I know it's at Penn State. They play there like every year or whatever, or every other year, whatever it is. They're used to it, but it's still their first true road game of the season, man. And when a team hasn't played a true road game for quite a while, that can be a problem as well. That's what we're looking at here. Meanwhile, I do think Penn State will show up. I know Penn State at 8-2. They're definitely not as good as their record looks, as I already showed you with Ken Baum. They've had a weak schedule. I get it. But they're at least battle-tested now, because they did finally have to step up in class and play Indiana. And they got destroyed in that game, which I know that is kind of a bad thing. They've lost their both of their power conference games. They've lost against Providence and Indiana by double digits, but only the Providence one was at home. Actually, this one wasn't at home either. What am I saying? Neither of them were at home. Never mind. So neutral site against Providence, that actually was more favorable to Providence, because that was actually at Mohegan Sun. So that was like a semi-road game almost for Penn State. And the other one was a true road game at Indiana. So they have not played any power conference team at home yet. It's their Big Ten home opener, man. I think they're going to get up for this one. And they got wrecked by Indiana in this last game, man. They gave up 113 points. They lost by 41 points. So who's going to want Penn State after that, man? But when a team loses like that, they usually are going to come with a better effort in the next one, man. I mean, that's an embarrassing performance. And if you look at what happened in this game, it was a major, major outlier. Indiana shot 69% from the field in the game and 55% from three. I mean, come on, man. Like, what team is ever going to do that unless it's like a game that's just a monster mismatch? I mean, that's just ridiculous. Indiana couldn't miss in the game. That's what happened in that game. That made it more of an outlier performance. Sure, Indiana won the game. They were the better team, but not to that extent. So we are going to be on Penn State plus the points in that one for the first play. You're going to fall asleep. All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to get this in before the games happen tomorrow. Though some of them are going to be at night, though. Bets, you like SMU. I'm going to do this in order, though, so I don't know if you want to hang on and wait. I will talk about that game once I get to it. I don't remember what I even thought about that game. I don't have a strong opinion on it, though. FanDuel has 13.5. All right, yeah, we can get an even better number on this now. That's good. How'd you get 18.5? Did you have to pay more for it? The best I saw all day was 18, but all right, 18.5, you actually get a win on it. I never saw more than 18. The number went down to 17.5 consensus pretty much. ESPN2 has a pretty good game up at noon as well. Arkansas and Texas Tech. Number 17, Arkansas. Number 16, Texas Tech. This is actually not at Texas Tech. This is in Dallas. So it's a semi-home game, if you want to call it that, for Texas Tech. It's not really that far away from Arkansas's campus either, though. So it's kind of a neutral-ish game here. It actually might be further away from Texas Tech, to be honest, because Texas Tech is further west. These teams are both pretty good. I think Texas Tech is the slightly better team, which is where they're ranked. Arkansas, they followed up a game against Louisville where we actually lost on this game with Fresno State here because I thought Arkansas was in a horrible spot. After playing Duke and Louisville and beating Louisville, they got Fresno State, and they had Texas Tech coming up next. I thought it was a sandwich spot. They beat us anyway. They covered the 20-whatever point spread by a couple points there. Now they get this game against Texas Tech that I said they would be looking ahead to, but both teams, in my opinion, are going to be showing up for this one, man. Texas Tech's coming off, I guess, debatably a more satisfying win where they beat LSU, an SEC team who is off to a pretty good start this season, and they beat them handily, man. So that win does look a little bit better. So I think for that reason, I'm going to slightly lean towards Arkansas. Texas Tech up from 1 to 1.5, though. I would agree that Texas Tech is probably the better team, but I think they're appropriately valued based on this line. I think if you think this is a true neutral, at least, which maybe it's slightly semi-home for Texas Tech, I don't know. But I think given the spot, Arkansas makes slightly more sense, but I really don't have much of an opinion on that at all. Also at noon, number 22, St. John's. Oh, no, not St. John's. They're not doing as well this year, man.
Yeah, inside, I want to kill myself.
They're hosting Iona here, and this is a big game for Iona, man, because Iona, they're a little guy that's like just outside of New York City, so they consider St. John's to be a big brother to them. So Iona, they're pretty much always going to at least try to step up their game for a game against St. John's. And I do not like the spot for St. John's here, man. They're coming off, look at this run of games they've had where they lost to Iowa State by 1, and we've seen how good Iowa State is. They beat Baylor, they lost to Auburn, and then they beat Ole Miss in their last game, even though Ole Miss is down. So that win, maybe not as great as it looks. St. John's was a favorite in the game. They actually, I'm assuming they didn't cover in the game. So I guess, I'm going to still say this is a sandwich spot, but if that win was against a better team than Ole Miss, I might be more inclined to jump on Iona here, but it's still a big win when you beat an SEC team, a Chris Beard coach team. So big win for St. John's nonetheless. Mississippi was actually able to slow them down in that game too, because St. John's likes to play fast. And St. John's does have their conference opener next. It'll be their first conference game, but it's against DePaul. So if it was really against any other Big East team, I think they might be looking ahead more to that game than they are, because, DePaul they're the doormat in the Big East, man. If it was like any other Big East team, that might be a bigger deal coming up next. So I'm going to pass on this one, but I would lean to Iona. Iona does have the better-looking record, although, of course, they've had a much easier schedule than St. John's. Iona's coming off a pretty lackluster game against Bryant. I think Iona was looking ahead. I think I called that game out as a potential look ahead for Iona on the show. They were a pretty big favorite in that game against Bryant, and they only won by 6. Of course, ESPN doesn't show us the historical odds anymore. I'm guessing Iona was a favorite of about several points in that game, so they didn't play that well. I think they were looking ahead a little bit. Slight lean towards Iona here in this one. Actually, one of my stronger leans, actually, that's not on my card, at least. You're taking a lot of points in this one if you do it. St. John's down from -27 to -26.5. The game is at Madison Square Garden, so it's one of St. John's home arenas, but the non-campus one. So, you get kind of it's a little bit less of an intense crowd there, although St. John's, it is like their other home, so whatever. But it is also going to be a fast-paced game, most likely, because St. John's definitely likes to play fast. The one thing you do have going for you, if you do like Iona, though, is that St. John's is not a very good offensive team. That's just kind of what they do. They go fast, but they're actually better defensively than offensively. for whatever reason. Although this year their offense has actually been a little bit better. They've been more balanced, despite the fact they've already lost more games this year than they did all of last year. So, yeah, do with all that information what you want to. That game's on TNT. The total is still fairly high, though. It's up to 163.5, so money seems to think it's going to be a high-scoring game, even though St. John's doesn't necessarily put up high point totals, despite their fast pace. All right, we have UMass and Florida State also at noon. UMass just pulled off a pretty big win, man, against BC. Like, whenever you beat the big boy in Massachusetts, it's a big deal, even though I think UMass was maybe only a slight underdog in that one. I thought BC was going to be in the better spot in that one. That game was out in Western Mass, though, closer to Amherst. It was I think it was in Springfield, so not really a semi-home, but maybe slightly favorable to UMass there. Now UMass gets Florida State, but I don't think UMass is really going to be in a letdown spot because, like, how do you overlook Florida State? Like, you get to play a team that's got a name like that. This game, I think, is actually a neutral site game, though. This game is actually in Florida, so this game is more beneficial to Florida, or Florida State, excuse me, the location here. Florida State's coming off 3 big games in a row against Texas A&M, Georgia, Houston. They didn't play that close, but still, when you come off games like that, I think you're going to be a little bit physically punished coming into this game. And they do have Dayton up next, which is maybe a bit of a bigger game than playing UMass, so I actually think the spot might be a little bit worse for Florida State. I don't love either side, but Florida State up from 10.5 to 11.5 here. You know, I might slightly lean towards taking the points with UMass, but it's a total of up to 159.5 as well. No real opinion on that one at all, though. Pinsy, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for subscribing or whatever and coming back when I go live at random times and whatever. All right, what other games do we even really want to talk about here, man? I'm going to try to keep this, big. If you want me to talk about another game, I will. I'm going to talk about the SMU game for bets there. I'm going to talk about most of the big games at the very least. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, this is a big game, man, at 1 p.m. on Fox. It's a huge rivalry. We know these two teams are the big rivals in their state. They don't like each other. Oklahoma State's off to a 9-0 start, but Oklahoma's actually the favorite here. They're up from Pick'em to 2.5. This is not at one of the campuses. This is in Oklahoma City, so it's a neutral game here. Both teams will have their fan bases showing up here. Oklahoma's the favorite for, I think, a reason. I think they are actually the better team, even though you'll see Oklahoma has some losses and Oklahoma State does not. But Oklahoma State has not faced a very difficult schedule. Their best wins are against Texas A&M, Northwestern on the road, and then Grand Canyon is a pretty solid win. But they haven't really been that tested yet. They're going to face Oklahoma, who's sitting at 6-3. So I think people might look at these records and maybe even think there's value because people see a team that hasn't lost yet and like, well, how are they an underdog, right? You know what I mean? That's going to come up with one of my actual plays, by the way, where it's even more extreme. But people might have a tendency to want to look to take the points here to some extent with Oklahoma State. I probably wouldn't. Although Oklahoma's coming off a more difficult run of games where they beat Marquette, they beat Wake on the road, Wake Forest, and then they played Arizona State, I think maybe in a neutral site game. Yeah, the Jerry Colangelo Classic. It was in Phoenix, so it was like a semi-home for Arizona State kind of, and they lost that game. Now they're coming back from that. So they are coming off a more difficult game than Oklahoma State is, I believe, because Oklahoma State's coming up beating Grand Canyon. I think Oklahoma State was a favorite in that game, I would imagine. Yeah, they weren't a huge favorite, though, and that was also in the Colangelo Classic in Arizona, but that was like a semi-home game for Grand Canyon because of that, basically. So a lot of things going on in this game. I think it comes down to the line just looking a little bit bizarre here. I would probably lean towards Oklahoma in that one, but no strong opinion on that one really at all. I just talk about the bigger games, man. We have Marquette at number 6, Purdue at 2 p.m. Eastern. Purdue has not moved up in the rankings yet, although I think the rankings don't come out again until like Sunday or whatever, right? So Purdue is coming off beating Minnesota down. I mean, it was a nice bounce back for Purdue off that ugly loss at home against Iowa State. Purdue, one of the worst home losses ever, like score-wise. Although Iowa State's a very good team, but still, that was embarrassing. And when you lose like that to anybody, that's embarrassing. Purdue got the bounce back. Now they get Marquette here. But maybe they're going to be looking ahead a little bit to Auburn because Marquette's a little bit down right now, and Auburn is probably, maybe a reason for a look ahead there because Auburn is at least ranked. Marquette is coming off a pretty ugly loss to their in-state rival, Wisconsin, losing by 20 points. I think Marquette might be in more of a bounce-back mode after that, so I kind of lean to Marquette in this one, but Marquette likes to go fast, and Purdue likes to go really slow, so Purdue probably will be able to slow this game down and control the pace, and that might frustrate Marquette, although it might also mean that Purdue will have a more difficult time covering an 18-point spread. They're down from 18.5 to 18 here, so slight lean to taking the points here. Total looks like it's dropping down to 153.5. It's still not exactly low, but yeah, those are my quick thoughts on that one. North Carolina, number 14 in the country. That game is on Peacock, by the way. This North Carolina game is on the CW if you want to go over there and watch this one after you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer or whatever. They're facing South Carolina upstate, USC upstate. South Carolina upstate, you got to figure they're going to at least try to get up for a game against one of the big boys in the Carolinas, whereas North Carolina might not have full focus on this. They're coming off a run of losing to Michigan State, beating Kentucky, big win for North Carolina, and that one a true road game as an underdog. They beat Kentucky, man. That's a big one. And then they followed it up with no letdown. They beat Georgetown by 20 after that. So after that run of games, maybe they'll be in a little bit of a letdown here in this one. I would probably lean towards taking the points if I was going to play this. USC upstate coming off a win over Western Carolina. Not a game that really matters whatsoever. Coming into this one, this is going to be one of their games they have circled at least. And for USC upstate, they're pretty battle tested. They played a lot of road games. They've actually done pretty well in the road games. They lost to Cal Baptist by 12. That's not a horrible loss, having to go to the Pacific Coast to start the season. Cal Baptist is not that bad, and they followed it up with a win at Fresno State. That's not bad either. I'm assuming they were a huge underdog in that one probably. They only lost by 13 at UNC Wilmington. They're a good team too. Did have kind of a sandwich loss after that to Tennessee Tech. They did lose again at Western Georgia, which is not a great loss. But then their most recent road game, they came to within 9 of Nebraska. That's a pretty good sign. Nebraska also likes to play fast, which North Carolina also does. So I don't think South Carolina upstate is going to be intimidated by that game at the very least. So I would look towards taking the points. You're getting 28.5. Now, if you do that, the total's gone up a little bit, but it's still pretty low at 149, which surprises me because North Carolina, they like to play somewhat on the faster side, so I'm kind of surprised that they're kind of in the mid-tempos right now. But, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that total's as low as it is. So, weird. Nate, what's up, man? Yeah, Nebraska ball. I'll probably talk about that one. I have not talked about that game yet. Nebraska and Illinois. I will talk about that one, obviously. It's a big game. It's on my card as well, and you're going to hate me. All right, what other games do we have that are really that interesting? I also have a notepad here where I have some of the other games that I found to be somewhat interesting here. All right. Yeah, also for time's sake, I'm going to be skipping some of these. I'm talking about all the big games at least. And again, if you want me to talk about some other game that I haven't, you can shout it out. But if I don't talk about it, it probably means I don't have that much of an opinion on it. I'm going to talk about the other ones that I do have an opinion on that don't make my card because I have like 6 other ones there. And then I'm talking about all the big games at least too. All right, so this one we have, what was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah, Providence and Butler. This is a Big East game. Somewhat big game here. Providence coming off a pretty lackluster performance against Brown, which I kind of told you that looked sandwichy to me because Providence was coming up beating Rhode Island, who's a better Rhode Island team, and Providence beat them down. Then they didn't have a great game against Brown, who's a littler brother there, and Brown stepped up their game, played well in that one. Providence, I think, was looking ahead to this Big East opener here. This is only going to be their second true road game of the season, though. Their first one was a win for us on the show in high elevation in Colorado. Bad spot for them. But Providence has not stepped up well against power conference teams so far, man. They lost to Virginia Tech. They lost that Colorado game. They beat Penn State at home, so that was a pretty good win. Or maybe that was a slightly neutral game. I forget. Maybe a semi-home, whatever it was. They lost to Wisconsin and they lost to Florida. Although Wisconsin and Florida are obviously better teams than Butler, though. So now Butler, they're kind of somewhere in the middle of those teams that Providence has played as far as the big conference games. But this is a road game, man. Again, they didn't do well their last road game, although this is at least a more familiar road environment because Butler's in the same conference. As far as Butler is concerned, I don't think they're as good as their record looks. Butler, they've been all over the map, dude. I mean, they have losses to SMU and Boise in their last game, so they might bounce back from that because they were definitely a favorite at home against Boise, and they had a bad game against Boise. So maybe they were even looking ahead to the Big East slate. So I think Butler probably is the side to look at in this game. Butler, they also do have some decent wins in here against Virginia, South Carolina. I mean, those are not that bad. Losing by 2 on the road at SMU is not bad either, so yeah, I mean, Butler, they're somewhat battle-tested, at least, even though I don't think they're that good, but they're a 5-point favorite here, and they're favored like that for a reason, man. So, slight lean to Butler in that game for me. Okay. Mercyhurst at Davidson is kind of interesting. Mercyhurst, I mean, it's a kind of a weird environment for them to have to go down to Davidson, though, and I do worry because they have Syracuse up next, and that's a big conference game, so they might be looking ahead to Syracuse, because I was looking at this game and thinking maybe Mercyhurst would be like a look in this game. Mercyhurst is at least somewhat battle-tested, playing Northwestern. They beat Loyola Chicago. The Loyola Chicago's been really underperforming this year. Good performance from Mercyhurst at Miami, Ohio, not losing by that much. Not losing by much at Marshall. They played West Virginia, although they got blasted in that game, but I mean, Mercyhurst, they're not really going to be intimidated by going to Davidson, though, even though it's further south than they have traveled this year. For Davidson, and yeah, Mercyhurst is really bad on the road, though. They're 1-6 on the road or something. Davidson's 5-1 at home. But Davidson is coming off a big game, man, against St. Mary's, where St. Mary's was a favorite, I think, at Davidson, and Davidson played them fairly close. The game was within 1 or 2 possessions pretty late in that game, lost by 9. So Mercyhurst would be my lean in this one. Davidson does play Temple and then Kansas after this, so those are somewhat bigger games as well. And then they start conference play after that as well. So this is pretty much the down spot. Like, if they're going to overlook a spot in their schedule, it's going to be this game, I would say. So I would slightly lean to taking the points with Mercyhurst. You're getting 14 with a really low total of 135, so that would be a slight opinion for me in that one. Maybe that would be an extra one of those like 6 or 7 that are not on my card, but an opinion nonetheless. Cincinnati at Georgia. This is also at 2 p.m. That other game I just talked about, Davidson, is on ESPN+. Cincinnati and Georgia are going to be on ESPNU. Cincinnati, as I talked about earlier this morning, is coming off a game against Xavier, where those two teams do not like each other, man. It's a big game. It was a pretty close game. I think Cincinnati had to make a comeback in that game and then fell short. Big game from them, though. Although Georgia, I mean, I don't think Georgia is really going to be an opponent they're going to overlook either, though. Like, I don't really think they're going to overlook an SEC team, especially when they have a smaller game up next. This is in the Holiday Hoops Giving, and I believe this is in Atlanta, Georgia. So the location is definitely more beneficial to Georgia here. Georgia, though, they're coming off smashing Florida State on the road. So they're coming off a pretty big game as well, man. That's a very satisfying win for them. So both teams look like they're in spots where I would kind of want to fade them. So I don't know which way I would even want to look in this game, man. Georgia's already up from 6.5 to 9, though. So the early money, for what it's worth, does seem to be coming in on the Georgia side. Sometimes that's a false move, but when it's moved that much, it kind of seems like it's the legit side, and that one to me for now. I mean, it's hard to read some of these early it's hard to read the market this early, but yeah, I mean, it seems like Georgia is the side that's getting the money there, though. So I guess take that for what it's worth. Maybe you could argue Georgia's coming off a more satisfying game, like a blowout win. Maybe they'll be in a letdown spot, where Cincinnati coming off a loss, but it was a tough game against Xavier, man. For Evansville and Notre Dame, I mean, they're coming off only beating Idaho, so I was thinking that they were coming off that game against TCU, but they're not, because that was a nice win on the road against TCU. But Notre Dame had what looked like it was kind of a flat spot against Idaho. They won anyway, although they probably didn't cover. They only won by 15. Now they're getting Evansville. Evansville is the little brother, though, in Indiana. They're also an Indiana team, and so is Notre Dame, of course. But the problem is Evansville is actually in a bad spot because they just took Western Kentucky to the limit, man. And Western Kentucky was a big favorite in this one. I would guess they were probably around an 8-9 point favorite in the game based on what the ESPN projections were there, at least. So Evansville is having to play 2 straight really big effort road games here if they're going to want to try to do this against Notre Dame. So I don't love it, man. I would probably lay the points with Notre Dame in this one, but I worry about it because, again, Evansville is still the little brother here. And the money looks like it has come in on Evansville early on. Notre Dame down for 17 after 16. Total really low at 136, so not really a game where I'm really wanting to lay points, and I don't think Notre Dame plays fast either, so not really conducive to winning by margin necessarily. And again, it is still a big game for Evansville. I mean, Notre Dame's one of the bigger names in Indiana, so Evansville probably will want to get up for it. Next up, we'll have my next play here. We're going to take the points again. We got some big underdogs here in this. We're going to be on George Washington plus the 15.5, even though he's only one man. And the school changed their name from the Colonials because you can't talk about colonizing anymore. You can't talk about the Revolution or the American Revolution anymore, man. They changed their name to the Revolutionaries, though, which does sound more like leftist, though. It sounds more like a reign of terror type of thing, man, than the American Revolution. So I hate that name change. It's stupid. These woke name changes are all BS, but we're going to ride them here in this game at Florida. I know it sounds like it's going to be difficult. It's actually not at Florida. Sorry, it's not a home game for Florida. It's in Sunrise, Florida, in that, whatever it is, the Sunshine Slam, or no, the Orange Bowl Classic. My mistake. So, in anticipation of the actual Orange Bowl. So Sunrise, I'm guessing, is close to Miami then because that's where the Orange Bowl is. So, you know, Florida benefits from the location, but they're on the other side of the state pretty much. So take from that what you will. And again, I will point out Florida is nowhere near as bad as their 5-4 record looks. I understand that. And this is one where people are going to look at it and maybe the public might have a little bit of a tendency to maybe not want to lay the points with Florida, at least because GW is at 8-3. But I don't like the spot for Florida, man. I said that last time. I acknowledged that Florida's not as bad as their record looks. They faced a really, really difficult schedule, losing to Arizona, Duke, UConn. I mean, those are all 3 of those teams are like legit, like top 5 teams. So I'm not going to knock Florida for those losses, but they're coming off not only now that Duke game, but the Connecticut game that they just played the other night. So they're coming off 2 really big games, man. And the Connecticut game was up in New England as well. I think that was, or no, it was where was it? At Madison Square? It was somewhere in the Northeast. I think it was in New York. Madison Square Garden. So now they're coming off 2 huge step-up games where they played close against Duke and UConn. And now they're coming off all that, and they got to play George Washington. It looks like a flat spot to me for Florida, man, even though I know they do tend to like to play fast. George Washington likes to play fast as well, though, man. So at the very least, they're not going to be thrown out of their element here, at least. And KenPom has George Washington in the top 100, so they're not a pushover. They're not a horrible team. Yes, they're bad defensively, so there is that. That's a little bit of a worry. But they do play fast, like I said. And yes, again, I know Florida is very low in the luck index right now in KenPom. He has them as his 4th unluckiest team and having faced the 4th most strong schedule. I get all that, but look at what George Washington's coming off of, man. They lost at home to Delaware. And that was Delaware was winless on the road. George Washington was undefeated at home. I think George Washington was looking ahead to this Florida game, man. I mean, they were a massive favorite in this game. Like, they had to have been, they were more than a double-digit favorite in this game at the very least, and they lost this game outright. And when a huge favorite loses outright like this, I like to look to play on that team in the next game. And look at what happened in this game. GW did win the turnover battle, and they won the rebounding battle barely. But look at the shooting. Delaware shot 51% against them, which is an outlier on its own, and 45% from three. That's even a little bit crazier. But GW was 29% from the floor in this game, man. That is an unbelievably low percentage that you're like never going to see that happen again, probably. And from a GW team that they tend to, I think, like to get out in transition as well with their fast pace. They're 42nd in all of college basketball in offensive efficiency as well, according to KenPom. So there's no way you're going to see them shoot like that again, even if they are playing Florida here. So I kind of like it, man. And maybe Florida's just a little bit down from where they were last year. I mean, the rankings makers are already telling you that, but I think that's the case. I mean, Xavier Lee, one of their big acquisitions over the offseason, hasn't really been that good. They brought him up from Princeton, so he's having to step up in class. Florida has gone up from 12 to 16 here, and I get it. It's a high total at 167.5. I understand all that. But the combination of Florida being in like a letdown hangover spot and GW coming off a horrific game is a huge favorite. I think it's worth it to take the points here. That's what we're going to do. I understand the high total means the teams are going to be going up and down the floor, and it does make it easier for the favorite to cover. But GW is not going to be thrown out of the style that they want to play, man, because they like to go fast as well. So that's what we're going to do there in that game. Although I know the tempo, like even if I say like a team is a fast tempo playing a slow tempo team, I usually make the excuse, oh, well, the fast tempo team is just not going to they're not going to like go full throttle, you know what I mean? So I do make that point as well, but it still works out, man. It really just all comes down to the spot, you know. And George Washington, I think they're really going to get up for this because it's on ESPN2. They get to play an SEC, a ranked team on ESPN2. That's a big deal, man. It's a bigger deal for GW than it is for Florida. I mean, Florida's playing national spotlight games all the time. All right. What other games do I even want to talk about here? We do have Georgetown and St. Peter's here. Georgetown coming off losing to North Carolina. Big game, but they got blown out by North Carolina. But they do start Big East play next in 4 days against Marquette. So debatably still a bit of a sandwich spot here. Facing St. Peter's. St. Peter's coming off a blowout themselves against Niagara, which whenever you blow anybody out like that, 71-43, you're going to be feeling a little bit satisfied, but you got to think St. Peter's is going to step it up for a Big East matchup, though, and they're not going to be intimidated. I mean, they already played Seton Hall on the road as well, so they already played another Big East team on the road. So for me, slight lean towards St. Peter's. It's a low total of 141.5, plus the points for St. Peter's. I mean, Georgetown down from 19 to 18.5 there, so taking the 18.5 in a low total game kind of makes sense. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN+. Houston, number 7 in the country, gets New Orleans at 3 p.m. on ESPN+. Houston coming off just destroying Jackson State. No real surprise there. They do have Arkansas next, though, so that will be a bigger game for them. Possible look ahead here. New Orleans is not as bad as their record looks at the very least. They've had a difficult schedule, so that also means they won't be intimidated. I mean, they played road games the entire season up until 2 games ago, and I thought that their home opener would be good for them. We laid the points here on the show in that one, and we took that loss. That was bad. They bounced back with a win over Incarnate Word, so that's good at least because it broke a long loss streak for New Orleans, although they were actually an underdog in that game. I think Incarnate Word actually is kind of on their way up a little bit this year, but you know New Orleans is going to step it up for a game against Houston, and again, they won't be intimidated because they've already played on the road against TCU, LSU, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, and they actually won the game against TCU. So, yeah, New Orleans won't be intimidated at the very least. Houston, you know they're going to be laying a ton of points here too. So, and they play really, really slow. So, asking Houston to cover, in this case, a 33-point favorite with a 33-point spread with the total of 139. They're probably not going to get there. I mean, Houston could easily win this game without covering. So I would probably take the points with New Orleans if I was going to play that game. Next up, next play. Southern Miss plus the points. I'm giving you 4 big underdogs. I'm going to give you one pretty big favorite, and then I'm going to give you another smaller underdog. So how about that? Southern Miss is, first of all, they're playing in-state big brother Ole Miss, so I start looking that way pretty much right away. Like, for Southern Miss, they're going to step up their game for a game against Ole Miss. That's just what it is. They're the little brother here. They're going to want to play well against their big brother. But then I'm looking at this, and this is not at Ole Miss. This is in Biloxi. So this is in Southern Miss. So this game is actually closer to Hattiesburg, which is where Southern Miss is. Ole Miss is actually in Oxford, Mississippi, which is way up north. So this game is actually closer to Southern Miss's campus, too. So the location actually helps Southern Miss. So I think their crowd is going to show up for this one, man. It's going to be a big deal for them. For Ole Miss, they're coming off bigger games, man. I know they've lost 4 games in a row, but all step-up games. They lost close to Iowa by 5. They lost by 1 to Utah, although I know Utah's not that good, but they lost by 9 to Miami, who seems to be on the way up again. And then in their last game on the road at St. John's, they only lost the game by 5, and Ole Miss was in that game, man, and they slowed the pace down, which is what Ole Miss likes to do. They slowed St. John's down, and they almost won that game. Or they were within like 3 points, I think, late in that game or whatever. Now they're coming back home off of that. I think it's a bad spot for them, man, even though they don't have a big game up next. Southern Miss, I think, is going to step up their game for this one. And yeah, I know Ole Miss's record is ugly, so the public probably won't really be coming in laying the points here in this one. But I still like it. Southern Miss does have the slightly better record. Sure, they're not as battle-tested. They did go on the road against Miami. They did play within 4 on the road at South Carolina, though, so they're not going to be intimidated against Ole Miss, man. And this not being a true road game and being closer to their campus, they're not going to be intimidated. They played some of the big boys already. They, again, came to within 4 of South Carolina. That was a nice performance against another SEC team, by the way. And then we faded them in the next game against Grambling, and we got the win with Grambling in that one. I think Grambling was actually an underdog there. Now, Southern Miss is coming off. Yeah, they got revenge over Grambling, but whatever. I mean, I'm not going to put much stock into that. It's not going to be a letdown spot when they're playing Ole Miss, okay? So, yeah, they beat Grambling. It still wasn't really the greatest performance from Southern Miss. I mean, they were a decent-sized favorite in this game. They won by 8, so they probably did cover, but barely. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking at Southern Miss in this one, man. So that's the way that we're going in this one. I think it's a bad spot for Ole Miss, and I like the location as well. It's a low total as well, down to 139. That was the other thing I was going to say. Again, taking points to the low total tends to be good. The total's dropping. Ole Miss has gone up to a 14-point favorite now, so you can probably get 14. I might update the description for whatever the best number is when I update it there right after this show. And, yeah, again, Ole Miss plays slow, so asking them to cover a large spread like that, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to get that done. All right. Delaware State and Longwood was kind of interesting to me. Delaware State, they're coming off a nice win as a little brother against Delaware. Now, I know Delaware's not that good, so it was only really a slight upset, but that's a big game for Delaware State, man, because they're a pretty bad team, and you beat what's your bigger brother in Delaware. That's a big deal. Now they got to go to Longwood, and up next they do have St. Joe's, which is a bit of a bigger game, maybe a bit of a look ahead there. The Longwood's not exactly a bad team, though, but Delaware State's been awful on the road, 0-6. Longwood's 4-1 at home. Longwood's coming off a pretty lackluster game where they went on the road against a bad Morgan State team, and they only got by them by 4. Longwood was a pretty big favorite in this game. They didn't play well. They did not cover, I'm assuming, in that one at the very least. So I think Longwood makes sense, but they do have a big game against Wake in 4 days, so I am a little bit worried about that, the Wake Forest look ahead. But overall, I would say lay it with Longwood in this one. 11 is the number. That's some Longwood to lay in this one, laying the lumber in that one with 11. Total's not that high at 144.5, but I think Longwood is the right side there. Louisiana at Louisiana Tech is interesting. Louisiana, they're coming off playing pretty well against UNC Wilmington, man, at home for Louisiana. Louisiana's a bad team this year, man. They're 1-9. They do have one. Their one win is a Division I win, at least, against Southeast Louisiana. It was not really that bad, even though their record looks bad. Louisiana, though, they're coming up. That was a big game against Wilmington, man. UNC Wilmington was a big favorite there in Louisiana. was pretty close in that game. Now they're coming off of that. They got to go back out on the road, although I do think they consider La Tech to be a bigger brother to them, though. So that's the hesitation I would have with laying the points with La Tech, is that Louisiana still might get up for this game, but they're coming off a big performance, man, and they're 0-6 on the road, and La Tech is 5-0 at home. Of course, all that's straight up, though. Louisiana Tech's coming off a beat down of some non-Division I teams, so they're coming off a much easier game. But Louisiana Tech is really facing an easy schedule this year, though they really have not been battle-tested. And the other reason I worry about laying the points with them is they play Tulane next, man. And Tulane, I think they consider to be a bigger brother to them in the state of Louisiana, so I do worry about that a little bit. So a lot of moving parts in that one. Thought it was interesting to talk about. Louisiana Tech is up from 10 to 12 there. I would lean towards laying the points there, but the total's really low at 126, so not really tempted to lay double digits there with that total either. The aforementioned UNC Wilmington coming off such an ugly performance against Louisiana Lafayette. Now they're on the road again, but they're going to Valpo. I kind of expect them to have a better performance here against Valpo, the other team that changed their name stupidly from the Crusaders, because you can't talk about spreading Christianity anymore, man. Valpo is good at home, though. They're 5-1 at home. They are coming off an easy win against some non-D1 team, though, after they took a close loss to Marquette, which that was a win for us on the show, by the way, I think, right? I don't remember. Was it? I think it was. I think it was a bad spot for Marquette, so I think we faded them. And Valpo almost pulled off the upset, so I don't know if there's going to be any delayed letdown here, but Valpo does have Northwestern next, so there's a possible look ahead there, although do they really overlook a one-loss UNC Wilmington team? Probably not, although Northwestern's a big deal because, I mean, it's Indiana versus Illinois, whatever. I would probably lay it with UNC Wilmington in this one. The total is low, dropped to 136.5, though, so yeah, again, just putting all the information out there. That's at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus, and so is the other game that I talked about with all three of those remaining games. The last three games are all there. I'm just shouting out where you can watch those. The Southern Miss Ole Miss game is on the SEC network, by the way. All of those games at 3 p.m. Kansas State Creighton on Fox. Interesting one here, man. Kansas State, really, they're not that good, man. I mean, every time they stepped up in class, except for the win over Mississippi State, and I guess the Cal one, although I think they were a favorite and didn't cover in that one. They haven't done well, man. I mean, they lost to Nebraska, although they only lost by 1. Lost at Indiana. Lost to Seton Hall. That's pretty ugly. They lost to Bowling Green in between the two. It was a bad spot, a sandwich spot, but that is an ugly loss, losing at home to Bowling Green. Now, yeah, they bounced back with a win over the worst team in all of D1, Mississippi Valley State, the Delta Devils. So maybe that will get them back on track, because at least when you break a losing streak, sometimes it will give you momentum coming into the next game, you know. But Kansas State, they only had one true road game so far, and that was that loss to Indiana. They lost by margin there. It was not a good game for them, so I don't know, man. Although playing in Omaha is a little bit easier for a Kansas team, but Creighton's good at home, 4-0 at home. K-State 0-1 on the road so far. Creighton is coming off that big game against Nebraska, though, man. Although they did not play well. They lost by 21, but there you go, Nate. That was a step-up game for Nebraska, though. And Nebraska got that blowout win. Very good win for them. I don't know, will Creighton be in some sort of emotional letdown off of that, or will they show up? I kind of think they'll show up. I don't know. My read on this is somewhat towards the Creighton side here. They're down from 5 to 4.5 here, though. I mean, I think they are the somewhat better team. They're the more battle-tested team as well. I mean, they lost to Gonzaga, Baylor, Iowa State. They beat Oregon, so they played more of a gauntlet so far, somewhat, than Kansas State. So that's my quick read on that game. I don't really have a strong opinion at all on that game, though. Next up is another play. This is the biggest dog that we have on the day. We're going to go with Mercer, plus 21.5 against Clemson. I know Clemson unranked, and they're probably at least worthy of being close to being ranked at the very least, even though I thought they were down this year. But we're just KenPom has them just outside of the rankings at 26th. So, yeah, Clemson's not bad. They're a pretty balanced team. Again, I get all that. This is ACC Network at 3 p.m., by the way, but this is a really bad spot for Clemson, dude. Clemson, they're coming off close losses at Alabama by 6, and then against BYU. They had a huge lead against BYU, and they had BYU on the ropes, man, and that game was, I think, up in, where was this, in New York, maybe? Yeah, at the Jimmy V Classic. This was in Madison Square Garden. Clemson had like a 20-point lead in that game, man. They were ready to beat BYU. The game was at Clemson's pace. I was completely wrong about that game. And then Clemson imploded and blew the entire lead, and they wound up losing the game. And when that happens, man, when you almost beat a top 10 ranked team like that and you have them completely on the ropes like that, now you have to come back home off of that. I hate this spot for Clemson, man. And this is actually not at home, actually, either, by the way. This is no, it is. My mistake. I thought this was a neutral. My mistake. It's not. My mistake. This is at Clemson. But Clemson, by the way, 3 days from now, yeah, they got to face their major rival, South Carolina. So that's coming up in 3 days. That is a huge rivalry game. So this is a bad spot, dude. This is a big-time sandwich. And after that, they got Cincinnati, Syracuse. So they have, and Pitt, so they're starting ACC play after they play Cincinnati. They got big games on the horizon, man. This is definitely the down spot in their schedule. Yeah, they're 5-0 at home, but again, I know I'm pointing out these home records, but you got to look at who they played because a lot of these wins and losses are just mismatch games that don't really matter. You know what I mean? A lot of non-Division I teams getting into the mix there. For Mercer, I know their record looks good at 7-2, but I still don't see the public coming in on Mercer in this one, man. Clemson's up to 21.5. The total is not that low at 152.5, but Clemson, they like to play slow, dude. So again, they're not really the type of tempo team that you really want to lay points with, like laying a ton of points with a slow team. I don't love that. And the fact that the total's high almost indicates that Mercer might actually be maybe even speeding the game up a little bit to try to suit what they want to do, because Mercer actually likes to play fast. And Mercer, they're not a terrible team. I mean, they're like a mid-tier team, according to Ken Palm. Yes, I do worry about the fact that they're 6th in his luck index. That's not good, but they faced a moderately difficult schedule. They're not a horrible team. Mercer, they're coming off beating Oglethorpe, who's a non-Division I little brother in the state of Georgia there for Mercer. I think Mercer's in Georgia. That's just a tune-up game, and Mercer has less travel to do here because they're just going from Georgia to South Carolina, so it's a lot easier for them to do that. And this is going to be one of their biggest games of the season, man. They're going to step it up for a game against Clemson, and they won't be intimidated because they did already play Tennessee on the road. They're in-state big brother, and they were decent in the game. They lost by 15. I'm pretty sure they covered that number, so decent. That's a decent data point there, although they got crushed on the road by Winthrop. But I think that was because Mercer was coming off, not an in-state brother. Sorry, I think Mercer's in Georgia. What am I talking about? But that was a big game against Tennessee, I should say. And they played well in the game, although they did lose horribly to Winthrop. So that was a bad data point there, but that looks like a bit of an outlier because that was their only other loss so far. So anyway, terrible spot for Clemson. We're taking the points in that, terrible spot for Clemson. Taking the points there. All right. Your aunt played for the Lady Blue Jays at Creighton. Hell yeah, man. You like Creighton even though you're a Nebraska fan? Is that blasphemy? I don't know. Is it Nebrasphemy? I have no idea. Your uncle coached Creighton soccer. All right, you got a lot of Creighton tie-ins there, Nate. Memphis and number 11 Illinois. Number 11 Louisville. Excuse me. This is an ESPN game at 3:30 p.m. Pretty big game. I mean, Memphis, they're not as good as Louisville, obviously. I mean, the rankings will also tell you that. Memphis, I mean, they've faced a pretty difficult schedule so far, but they're coming off a big win over Baylor, so I do worry that they might be in a little bit of a letdown off of that. Although, really, do you have a letdown when you're facing Louisville? Probably not. Memphis played okay in their other road game. They lost by 6 at Ole Miss in their only other road game, so that was a good game for them. They played well, but coming off a win over Baylor, I do worry a little bit about Memphis, man. And the next game is a bigger game probably than the Louisville game. I know this is a huge game against Louisville, but they're playing their in-state brother, Vandy, who's really on the upswing. Vandy actually very good. Crazily, Vandy is now awesome in football and basketball. That's a big game for Memphis on the horizon, man. I'm not saying they're going to overlook Louisville, but I can't really get there with Memphis here, man. Even though Louisville, I don't think is in a very good spot. Louisville coming off losing pretty close to Arkansas on the road, and then they beat Indiana in their most recent game at home, I believe, 87-78. Nice win there. And Louisville has Tennessee up next, so this is pretty much a sandwich spot for Louisville here, and that game's in 3 days. So I do lean to Memphis in this game overall. Not going to be one that makes my card or anything. Louisville up from 15 to 15.5 with a high total of 161, but slightly into taking the points there. Nate, you've been waiting for this one. Nebraska, Illinois, 4 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. This game, number 23 Nebraska, number 13 Illinois. People are going to look at this, though, and even though they see the rankings, they're going to see Nebraska at 10-0 versus Illinois at 8-2. What are they going to want to do here? And they see the spread is 10 points in this game, and it's going up, man. The public's going to look at this and think, oh, my God, I'm getting 10 points with a Nebraska team that hasn't lost at all yet. It looks so easy to take the points with Nebraska here, right? Well, sorry, Nate, that's not what we're doing. We're going to lay Illinois minus 10 in this one. As good as Nebraska's been so far, Illinois is the better team. They're the more balanced team this year, believe it or not, even though they're usually not that good defensively. Pretty high total, up to 159, so laying the points. We're in like a point range where it makes more sense in a high-scoring game. Both teams like to go fast, so that's not really going to be an issue really for either team. Illinois is just better at it. Illinois, they've gone up from 9 to 10 already. If you see a 9.5 out there, of course, do that instead of the 10, but hopefully there's not a difference there. But I like Illinois, man. I mean, this is one of those misleading lines here, right? Even though Illinois is the higher-ranked team, which is correct, but laying 10 points, like the public is not going to be doing that, man. I think Nebraska might set up in this game as a little bit of a public underdog here. Illinois is legit. Ken Pom has them at 9th in the country. Yeah, they're still better offensively than defensively, but they're in the top 25 in defense. Illinois actually likes to play a little bit slower, believe it or not, this year than they're like almost a mid-tempo team actually now. So they're actually probably going to maybe even slow Nebraska down a little bit. Nebraska likes to play a little bit faster than that. So maybe Illinois will frustrate them a little bit, even though I know I just said faster pace means they're going to be more likely to cover. But I still think we're going to get a slightly fast game here. As far as Nebraska is concerned, they're the significantly worse offensive team. That's where Illinois has the biggest edge. Illinois 5th, according to Ken Pom, in offense. Nebraska 46th. And Ken Pom does have Nebraska as the very slightly better defense. So the both teams, he has Illinois one ranking spot higher. My mistake. I can't see anymore. So he actually has, the defenses are almost even, but Illinois is even slightly better there too. And Illinois faces a more difficult schedule as well, so that's the thing. Like, why does Illinois have 2 losses? Yeah, it's because they faced a more difficult schedule. Illinois lost to Alabama, close. They beat Texas Tech. That's a good one. They lost to UConn, and then they beat Tennessee. Those are good games, man, and now they're coming off not playing the best game against Ohio State. We lost with Ohio State here on the show. I know Ohio State didn't cover, but Illinois didn't play that well in that game, man. So I think it was kind of a game. They went through the motions. They did get the win, good win, but this is their conference home opener. You know they're going to show up for this one, man, especially with Nebraska being ranked. I don't think Illinois is going to overlook this thing, man, and that was kind of the down spot in their schedule last game. For Nebraska, you want to talk about being in a down spot. I know it's Illinois, so that sounds weird, but after Nebraska crushed Creighton, their in-state rival, their huge win, they didn't suffer a letdown at all, and they crushed Wisconsin by 30 points in their last game. So that's going to make Nebraska look, I think, a little bit too good. And by the way, Nebraska also has not played a true road game yet this entire season. So they're this late into the season. We're in mid-December, and they haven't played a true road game yet. That's not good. So when a team hasn't played a true road game yet, I want to look to fade them, man. And they had a couple of neutral site games, and they played them in Kansas City. So Nebraska has not traveled outside of the furthest that they've gone is Kansas City this entire season, I'm pretty sure. So, what are we doing here, man? They went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, That was the furthest they traveled. One game in Sioux Falls, and then Kansas City. So, yeah, I mean, It's going to be a really hostile environment here, man. This game is in Champaign, Illinois. I always say Champaign, Illinois. Yeah, Illinois is the right side as far as I'm concerned in this one. We're going to lay it with Illinois against an undefeated team. That's what we're going to do there. Hoiberg knows ball. Where's Hoiberg at now? All right, what other games do I want to talk about here? I know I'm skipping a bunch of these here. I'm looking at the other games I have on my slate here to potentially talk about as far as other leans. Don't think I've seen any of the other ones come up yet. Yeah, I don't think I have. All right, I'm going to keep going. What other games are interesting to talk about? I mean, we do have Auburn at 4:30 p.m. on SEC Network. They're playing against Chattanooga. Chattanooga looks a little bit down this year. Chattanooga, coming off a win over Oakwood or whatever. They're beating a non-Division I team, whatever. You got to think they're going to step up their game against Auburn. But Chattanooga, they're not exactly totally battle-tested here. Their biggest game was against St. Mary's. They played okay, I guess, in the game, losing by 21. Now they're facing Auburn. Auburn, I think this is a neutral game, though. Yeah, this is in Atlanta, Georgia, and whatever's going on there. So this is the holiday hoops giving. So it is a neutral site game. Probably a game where Chattanooga is going to get up for it more than Auburn does. Auburn coming off getting blown out, though, by Arizona. I know they faced a bunch of difficult teams. Michigan, St. John's. They got the win against St. John's. Win against NC State. Those are good wins. Now, if they played closer at Arizona, I would like Chattanooga more here, but the fact that they lost by almost 30, maybe they will actually come to play in this game, but they do have to turn around and play Purdue next, which is a huge game, although that's not for a week. So, yeah, I don't love the game, but I would probably lean towards fading Auburn here, thinking that maybe Chattanooga will get up for this more than Auburn will. Of course, I'm clicking around here, so I can't even come on, man. I hate it. I apologize. There we go. Auburn's up from 16.5 to 22, though, so the number has moved up, and with a total of 152, which is not low either, so we're staying away, but slight lean maybe towards Chattanooga, but the money has disagreed so far on that one. Pitt at Villanova, 4:30 on True TV. Villanova coming off losing to Michigan. A big step-up game against Michigan, although they lost by 28. But the problem with Villanova is they hadn't lost since their season opener against BYU, where they did play pretty well against BYU, but Villanova really is untested right now, man. Their two games against power conference teams were those two, and they lost them both. So then maybe isn't a great sign coming into this game against Pitt, although Nova is undefeated at home. Pitt lost their only road game so far, bad as well, at West Virginia. They got embarrassed in that game. Pitt's resume is not great, man. I mean, their games against power conference teams, they won one of them at home. We won on it here on the show against Ohio State. Ohio State was in a bad spot there. Pitt got the buzzer beater win there, and then they did lose to Texas A&M, although they played decently in the game, barely losing. Now, Pitt is coming off an ugly game against Hofstra, man. Pitt was a big favorite in this game, and they lost at home to Hofstra. That is a bad performance from Pitt, man. So you got to think they were maybe looking ahead to this. So I probably slightly lean to Pitt for that reason because they're going to be in bounce-back mode. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could really I don't think I could do it, obviously. But it's a low total, 137. You know, you don't really want to lay tons of points with a team like Villanova where they play slow. So Villanova is a 10-point favorite here. Yeah, slightly for me to taking the points, but I don't really love it. Southeast Louisiana against Houston Christian. This is one that was close to making my card. So far, Iona was the other one I mentioned that was closest to making my card. And I think I might have shouted out one other one that I didn't have on the list here, but it's a lot to keep track of, man. I'm losing my mind here. We're up late every night. Oh, boy. All right. We got Southeast Louisiana. They're coming off an awful game against Northwestern State. I know Southeast Louisiana, their record looks bad, but believe it or not, they were a big favorite in this game against Northwestern State, man. Southeast Louisiana probably was close to a double-digit favorite, and they lost the game outright. So I think they're in a bounce-back spot coming off of that. they're decently battle tested. I mean, the reason why Southeast Louisiana's record looks so bad, I mean, look at some of their losses. Ole Miss on the road, Georgia Tech on the road, Mississippi State on the road, UNC Wilmington also good on the road. So really their only bad losses are Louisiana, which was in a sandwich spot, and this inexplicable one to Northwestern. But I think they come to play here in this one. Houston Christian's going to look like the right side because they have the better record, but they're not actually the better team, and they're coming off a nice win, man. So they beat us. They pulled off two straight ups. They pulled off an upset after they almost pulled off two straight upsets is what I wanted to say, because the reason we faded them against New Orleans was one of the reasons was Houston Christian played North Texas really well on the road, man. It's huge underdogs. They almost pulled off the upset against North Texas. They came off of that, and they did pull off an upset of a milder variety, beating us against New Orleans. So now they're coming off multiple big performances. And to make it worse for them, in 2 days, they got to play McNeese. And McNeese, I actually like this one quite a bit, man. I'm not on it, but yeah, they have McNeese, who is still, until further notice, McNeese is still the best team in the Southland, man, after Will Wade built up their program. So that is a pretty major look ahead. So I like Sela in this game, man. Southeast Louisiana. This is close to being a play for me. So Houston Christian's a 2.5-point favorite, so the odds makers are not really giving them full home court. I think you're getting points with the better team in Sela in this one, man, even though the record looks worse. The total's low as well, 134.5, so taking the points, even though it's not that many, makes more sense there as well. So, yeah, I would go with Sela. I would probably like it more if they were a bigger favorite in their loss in the last game, and if Houston Christian had pulled off a bigger upset than they did there. But I do still like it. Yeah, I mean, we have Cal playing Northwestern State. Northwestern State is coming off that upset that I just pointed out against Sela. So maybe not the greatest spot for them, and having to go to the Pacific Coast to face Cal, though they actually, I think, did. Yeah, they did go out to the Pacific Coast to play San Francisco already. They lost by 20. I mean, that's not really a horrible loss because San Francisco's not that bad, but it's not great either. Cal, I mean, they're just sitting around at home off of some easy wins, so the spot does set up better for Cal. I would probably lay the points with Cal if I was going to look at this game. 20.5 is what the number is there. Pretty low total of under 48.5, but I would probably lean towards laying it in that one. All right, let me see. What else do I have on my list here? Kansas and NC State is the next ESPN game up. That Cal game is ACC Network at 5 p.m. Eastern. This game is 5:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 19, Kansas at NC State here. People are going to look at this, though, and probably only lean one way. They're going to look towards Kansas here, man. But this is a situation where I talk about this in football all the time. We're going to also talk about it in basketball. You have the unranked team as a favorite against a ranked team, and you know that does make my short list. This is not on my card, but this is one of the ones that almost made my card, which is laying the points with NC State here, man. Because you know, I talk about this in college in general, football and basketball. When you have a ranked team that's an underdog against an unranked team, the odds makers are telling you that the rankings are a bit off. And Ken Bum will tell you that as well, as he has Kansas 17th and he has NC State 28th. So there's not that much of a difference between the two teams here. Kansas is the better defense getting points, though, so I do worry about that. NC State is the better offense. And this is like a typical matchup where Kansas State likes to slow it down. They play better defense. NC State likes to speed it up and score. So that's what you got going on in this game. I would still lay it with NC State, though, if I was going to play it, even though, yes, I know Kansas does fall into the better defense getting points category. The public's only going to want to play Kansas here, man, and they're coming off a very satisfying win in what's a rivalry basically between Kansas and Missouri. The border war is what it is in football, and they were coming off a big – so look at Kansas's run here, man. They played Duke, lost by 12, I think out in Las Vegas. They beat Notre Dame, beat Syracuse. I mean, those aren't great wins, but still power conference wins. They beat Tennessee. I think we won on that one on the show. They caught Tennessee off of, I think, the Houston win. So that was a big letdown for Tennessee. Kansas got the job done there. Then Kansas turned around and played well against UConn as well. Big game for them. 2 big games. And then they made it 3 in a row by beating Missouri by 20 as well. Now they're coming off all of that. And this is only going to be their second true road game of the season, and they lost by 13 to North Carolina in the first one. And North Carolina and NC State are both ranked really close to each other in Ken Baum's rankings, man. He's got North Carolina only 4 ranking spots higher, so the fact that Kansas lost to North Carolina, also kind of a similar style of team as well, because both teams play fast, although UNC is actually better defensively, but still, not a great sign having to now go on the road again where they haven't been on the road for a while. NC State's undefeated at home, 6-0. They're coming off an easy win over Liberty, although fairly satisfying to bomb Liberty by 40 points. And Liberty's not that bad of a team, but still, NC State, they're going to show up for a game against Kansas, man. But I do worry that NC State's a little bit less battle-tested. I mean, their biggest games, they haven't stepped up well. Let's just put it that way. Their big conference games are all losses against Seton Hall, Texas, and Auburn. So I do worry about that fact as well. So some reasons why it doesn't make my card, but I like NC State in that one nonetheless. I would lay it with NC State if I was going to play it. You can probably lay around 2.5 there, up from Pick'em to 2.5 or 3 now. Total at 151 in that one. Okay, Southern Utah and Washington on the Big Ten Network. Weird seeing Washington on Big Ten Network, man. This is at, we're getting into the evening now, so we're almost done. 6 p.m. on Big Ten Network. Washington, they're coming off a pretty good win, man. I mean, they've played a couple of big games in a row, man. Former Pac-12 games, now Big Ten games. They played to within 2 of UCLA. Big game there. And then they beat USC in their last game. And I think USC's best player is hurt right now. I think he got hurt a couple games ago, so I don't know if he's back. I don't pay a lot of attention to the personnel in college. I apologize. I just look at situations. But Washington, yeah, they're coming off a pretty satisfying win as an underdog at USC. Big win, and they do have an in-state little brother, big brother, in-state or in-city little brother, big brother situation up next against Seattle, which is more of a big deal for Seattle. I know Seattle really wants to step up their game against Washington, and they've given Washington some fights in the past, but still Washington might still look ahead to that game because it is bigger than facing Southern Utah. I mean, are they really going to get up for a Southern Utah team that stinks and is 0-6 on the road? Probably not, although I do worry that Southern Utah is coming off a loss at Oregon State, and now they're having another road game against another big opponent for them against Washington. I'm staying away, but this one was close to making my card as far as I don't think it's a good spot for Washington. They're up from 25.5 to 26 as a favorite here, Washington, obviously. I would take the points with Southern Utah if I was going to play it. 150.5 is the total in that one. All right. Vandy, number 15 in the country here, man. And Ken Baum actually has them in the top 10. So Vandy, they are no joke. They're good. This is on the SEC Network at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, but I don't like the spot for Vandy here. And people are starting to notice that they're good because they're climbing up the rankings. They're 9-0. They're really not that battle-tested yet, though. Their big wins, they won on the road against UCF, who was a Big 12 team now, but the only other power conference win was against SMU, so they're really not that tested. Like, their actual biggest wins are probably actually VCU and St. Mary's are probably the best teams they played in. St. Mary's is a big win for them because that was a tournament revenge game for Vandy because St. Mary's knocked them out of the tournament last year, but they did not suffer a letdown at all. Vandy did not, and they beat SMU in their most recent game, so another big win for them. Now they get Central Arkansas. I just don't really see them focusing here, man, against Central Arkansas, who's a bad team. And Vandy has a big game. They got to turn around and face Memphis next, although I know I mentioned that game is bigger for Memphis because it's an in-state little brother, big brother situation, but it's still Memphis. They're going to draw your attention more. So I think this is kind of a sandwich spot for Vandy here. Central Arkansas, Kark is coming in, although I know they're 0-5 on the road. That's not great. Vandy 5-0 at home, but you're getting a ton of points with Central Arkansas here. They are coming off a pretty ugly loss at East Texas A&M, although, of course, Central Arkansas is so bad they were an underdog in that one. I would look towards taking the points with Central Arkansas if I was going to play it. I do think it is a sandwich spot, but Vandy's up to a 36-point favorite. I think it's just a spot where Vandy probably just doesn't care about really pushing the tempo and blowing them out. Vandy does play fast, though, and I think Central Arkansas likes to play slow. Yeah, so I worry about that a little. Actually, Central Arkansas plays on a little bit of the faster side. Actually, my mistake. But Vandy, I just don't see them really going full tempo here, man, full effort because, I just don't think it's a game where they're going to do that, Sorry I haven't got to SMU yet, by the way, man, for bets, money bets. It was in the chat. It's a late game, man, so I'm going to get to it, but it's a long process here with all these games here, man. Citadel at South Carolina at 7 p.m. on SEC Network. All I can really say is the Citadel are a little brother in the state of South Carolina, so they're probably going to get up for this game. And South Carolina, they did have an easy win over Stetson. Nice bounce back after South Carolina lost as a favorite to Virginia Tech. But you got to think they're probably going to look past Citadel because they got Clemson up next. As I mentioned, that's a big deal for South Carolina, probably even bigger for South Carolina because Clemson's been the better of the two teams in basketball recently. So I see them kind of looking past Citadel here. I would lean towards Citadel in this one, although South Carolina's been good at home so far. Citadel, bad on the road. Not a good team, obviously. But Citadel did just break a long losing streak with a win, although it was against a non-D1 team. But still, that's at least a decent sign. And you got to worry about them not being battle-tested, though, for the Citadel. I mean, they really haven't faced anybody good yet. Their biggest game was at BC, and they got blown out in that game. BC is not as good as South Carolina. But, yeah, do with that information what you will. They at least probably won't be intimidated. It's a low total of 140.5, and you're looking at taking 24 points here. So it looks decent to take all those points in what's going to be probably a slower game here. South Carolina does play slow tempo. So, again, putting all the information out there, man. All right. We have Arizona State, Santa Clara is interesting. This game, for some reason, is in Henderson, Nevada. So the game is a neutral site game here. But it's interesting because Arizona State's the bigger conference team here, but Santa Clara is actually favored. Santa Clara, oddsmakers are telling you they're actually the better team here, and I don't disagree. Arizona State's a little bit down in the Big 12. Santa Clara is not a joke, man. I mean, I don't think they're going to threaten St. Mary's and Gonzaga, but they are the third best team in that conference. And San Francisco's not that bad either. But so the quality of that conference is actually increasing, which is interesting. Arizona State's coming off an easy blowout win over in-state little brother, Northern Arizona. JC, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out really late at night here. I'm not going to get any sleep, but that's all right. Arizona State probably satisfying to beat down their little brother, and they do have UCLA up in 4 days on the road. That's a big game, man. That's a big deal. That's a former Pac-12 game as well, so that's a bigger game than Santa Clara, I think. This is the Jack Jones Classic, one of these early season tournaments, man, before we get to conference play where we don't really have to worry about neutral locations anymore. Santa Clara just lost at New Mexico at the Pitt. That's a difficult place to play, man, in New Mexico, so they're coming off of that. I think they're going to get up for a game against Arizona State, though, so I do like Santa Clara in that one. And again, I think the public's going to look at it and say, oh my God, the bigger conference team getting points and be tempted to go that way. I would lay it with Santa Clara in that one, though. Stanford and San Jose State at 7 p.m. on CBS Sports. Of course, I talked about it in football. San Jose State is a little brother in Northern California to Stanford, so they do step up their game usually when they play Stanford. Stanford's looking like they're on the way up again, though. They're pretty decent this year, man. 7-2. They're coming off a close loss to UNLV, although this was actually a bad game for Stanford. I know it looks like it might have been a big game, but Stanford was a pretty big favorite here. UNLV is not that good. Stanford is on the rise, so the fact that they lost a favorite, I don't really want to fade Stanford for that reason. And this is actually their first true road game, although I know they're not traveling far to San Jose, but still, they have not played in a true road environment yet this year, which is interesting. And San Jose State's at least been pretty good at home. They're coming off a pretty weak performance against a bad Long Beach State team, where Long Beach State took them into overtime. San Jose State was a pretty significant favorite in this game, man. Long Beach is really bad this year, and San Jose State didn't do well. Maybe they were looking ahead because this game's going to be a big one for them. So I like San Jose State in that one, taking the points. Stanford's up from 6 to 7.5 there. San Jose State, the total, is up to 145.5, but it's not a big total. So I would probably take the points with San Jose State if I was going to play it. Saab, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Indiana, Kentucky, big game here, man. Both of these teams just dropped out of the rankings recently. They were both in the rankings. Do they deserve to be in the rankings? Ken Bum is both of them in the top 25. He's got Kentucky 20 and Indiana 21. Both teams kind of mid-tempo teams. Both teams are actually better defensively than offensively. Interesting that Kentucky usually does not profile like that, so that's all interesting to see. This is a close matchup, man. It's going to be a good one. It's in Kentucky, in Lexington. So, Dave Portnoy might be hanging out there at the Glory Holes. ESPN game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a decent game to schedule on ESPN. I think it's going to be a competitive game, man, I think. Although you never know. Even if it's a close line, you never really know. Indiana, they're coming off a nice little run here where they played Louisville okay to within single digits. Then they blasted Penn State in their most recent games. That was a nice game for them. Now they're going out on the road. Although Indiana, you got to worry about how unbattle-tested they are because their biggest games were a win over Marquette on a neutral, beating Kansas State, I think, at home. I don't know if that was a neutral or not because it wasn't asterisk. So they beat Kansas State somewhere. They lost to Minnesota on the road, and that was a win for us on the show because I faded Indiana in their first true road game. That's not a good sign that they lost to Minnesota on the road, man, and now they're on the road again here, although at least they are now a little bit more road-tested from that. But they haven't stepped up well in class, man. They lost to Louisville, which was the one really good opponent they faced. And other than that, all their bigger games that they played were not against a caliber of team that Kentucky is. So the only time they faced a team anywhere near as good as Kentucky was against Louisville, and they lost. Although, yeah, they only lost by 9. Kentucky, they're only at 6-4, man, but I think they're not as bad as their record looks. They're more battle-tested because they have losses to Louisville, Michigan State, road game at Louisville, although, of course, Kentucky-Louisville, it's in Kentucky, but still true road game at Louisville. Neutral loss to Michigan State. Loss at home to North Carolina, although you're not really going to knock them for that, I don't think, even though Kentucky was the favorite. And then they had an awful game in a neutral against Gonzaga, which I think that game was in Tennessee, but Gonzaga was coming off an embarrassing loss, man, and Kentucky was coming off a close game, so Gonzaga set up much better in that game, and Gonzaga's legit. They're good. So Kentucky does have the more difficult schedule behind them than Indiana so far, so I kind of like Kentucky in this one. They're down from 4.5 to 3.5. I would probably lay it, though, because they are at home, so you got to give them the home edge in this one. Total up to 157.5 here. Kind of a mid-tempo game expected here. Yeah, I would lay it with Kentucky if I was going to play it. Short of time to handicap. All right, man. So I'll do the work for you. Why not? I'm talking about a ton of games here. I'm giving out 6 plays and then some of my other opinions as well here. You have a system play for NHL. All right, well, I'm not going to look at NHL until the morning, so I'll have no idea. You can let me know what it is. If you're going to hang out in the morning, you can let me know what it is then, or let me know if I'm on it or what I say about it or whatever, because I'm probably going to do all of the NHL tomorrow, but we'll see. A game, so your system is fade a team that came off of a 4-game or longer road trip, and once they came back, when they were in their first game back, they beat an above 500 team. So they returned home and they didn't suffer the letdown in the return home is what you're saying. And they beat a good team. So you're saying that that's the Ottawa Senators against Minnesota. Okay, I'll be looking at that tomorrow and we'll see. All right, so you're on Ottawa. Good to know. All right, Fox at 8 p.m. We have number 2 in the country, Michigan. They're actually number 1 in Ken Palm's rankings now. Do I think they're actually the number 1 team? I don't know, man. These rankings fluctuate right now. They're looking real good so far, but they've had some games where they were not as good, which I'll talk about in a second. But this is a road game at Maryland on Fox, and Maryland is somewhat newer to the Big Ten. This is not one of the easier places to travel from Michigan, having to go out to the East Coast there. Now, Michigan, I know they've looked really impressive recently with blowout wins over San Diego State, Auburn, Gonzaga. They did really well in that Vegas tournament. Then they annihilated Rutgers, although Rutgers is not that good, but still 41-point win. That's crazy. That was the Big Ten opener there. Then now they're coming off another blowout win against Villanova, although Villanova not really as good. Now they get Maryland on the road, and if you look at what Michigan was doing earlier in the season, their one true road game they had so far at TCU was not a good one. They only won by 4, and they did have a really close game before that against Wake, too, so there is some precedent for Michigan to maybe not play as well here. So I don't think they're as good as they looked in these recent games, and I don't think they're as bad as they were in those early games either. So still remains to be seen, man. I mean, I know they have Dusty May as their coach. He built up FAU's program really great and then came over to Michigan and took Vlad Golden with him. I don't know where Vlad Golden is now. Is he in the NBA now? I don't know. But still, Michigan, the fact that they haven't been on the road since earlier in the season, this is the first time, I think, going to the Eastern time zone. Is that right? Let me see. Yeah, because they went to Vegas. So where did they play Wake? Let me see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. No, they played Wake in Detroit, Michigan, so they were in Michigan for that one. Yeah, I don't think they've traveled to the Eastern time zone this season. I know it's a late game, like it's a night game, so it won't be one of those weird early games, but I don't know. I kind of like Maryland in this one, man. Maryland, they're coming off a blowout loss to Iowa. Iowa had a nice bounce-back win there. That was an ugly loss for Maryland on the road. I mean, that was Maryland's only their second true road game of the season. I kind of expect them to bounce back here at home, man. Maryland, they're pretty battle-tested. I mean, they won't be intimidated. They played Alabama, Gonzaga. I know, yes, they got blown out by them, so that's not great. They also lost to Georgetown, so the only power conference win they have is against Marquette. But that was on the road. I don't know. Maryland did come in, and they did lose their best player at some point in here. And I don't remember when exactly he came back, but they were without him at some point. He got hurt in the Marquette game, I think. And then I forget when he came back. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get at least a little bit of value looking towards Maryland in this one. Michigan's up from 17 to 19 here, total of 154. Not that high of a total. I would probably look towards taking the points in Maryland. Where does Ken Palm have Maryland at? I didn't think they were that bad, but maybe they're not that great right now. Actually, they're worse than I thought, man. My apologies. He's got Maryland at 94th, so my apologies. Yeah, you got to worry about Maryland actually not being that good right now. So I knew they had dropped off from last year because they lost like all their good players from last year, and they weren't a deep team. But yeah, it looks like they're definitely a bit down this year. Wild beat the Dallas Stars 5-2 in the home return spot. Yeah, I don't remember if we lost on that game or not. I don't think we did, but I don't think I faded the Wild in that one because I thought they might still step it up because Dallas is a big opponent. Ottawa broke their losing streak against Columbus. Positive spot. I probably agree with you on that one. Whether it makes my card, I don't know. I got to look at it and see if I vibe with it. Like, that's seriously what I do, man. Like, I look at the schedules. I dig into each game, kind of dig into the box scores, look at what the line is, read the market. I do all that, but I look at the schedule and I kind of see, like, I don't know, there's almost like an art to it in a way, and I see, like how does the scheduling spot look for me? You know what I mean? I don't know. Fox Sports 1 at 8 p.m. We got the Battle of New Jersey, which is Rutgers and Seton Hall, but Seton Hall is definitely the better team right now, man. Rutgers, after they lost, they were a not deep team last year either, and they lost Ace Bailey and who was the other guy? I forget, but Ace Bailey is starting to look pretty good for the Jazz, man. I kind of want his jersey. And I kind of like the Jazz jerseys as well. But people were making fun of me for saying that Ace Bailey should, like, absolutely deserve to be a top draft pick. He's a great player, man, I think. I think he will be good in the NBA, and he's starting to look pretty good. But that's beside the point. Rutgers lost him and whoever their other best player was last year. So they were a thin team, and they're not good this year. And Seton Hall hasn't been good for a few years either, but they look like they're on the rise. So they are the better team here. But all that being said, it's factored into the line. Rutgers is coming off that awful loss to Michigan. I know it's Michigan, yeah, like you don't expect them to beat Michigan on the road, but losing by 41 points and giving up over 100, that is something, man. I think you're going to want to bounce back from that. You're going to be a little bit angry. This, by the way, is the Gaddon State Hardwood Classic, man. If I'm going to go Boston Toad, Gaddon State Hardwood. So this is actually a neutral site game. This is in Newark, New Jersey, I believe. Oh, no, actually, wait. No, so this is actually at Seton Hall. What am I saying? Which is why they're getting the home advantage baked into the line. I thought this was a neutral site, but it's not. It's actually at Seton Hall. Seton Hall, though, yeah, they're undefeated at home. Yeah, they're 9-1. I don't think they're that good, though. Like, I don't think they've turned it around to that degree. Their step-up games so far were a win over NC State, which I think was in Hawaii. They lost to USC, also out in Hawaii. And then they had a win on the road over Kansas State. That's a good win, but Kansas State's pretty down this year. So, that's still a better win, though. It was an upset road win, and now Seton Hall has this game against Rutgers, who's not good right now. And Seton Hall does start Big East play next against Providence. So I like the spot better for Rutgers. That's what I would do in this game. I would take the points. You're looking at a line of 11, and with a Seton Hall team that likes to play really slow, they play a lot of ugly games, man. I mean, they are not a team that I like to lay points with. Total's low at 131.5. Expected to be an ugly game. I think Rutgers also plays slow. Yeah, so you're looking at a slow-paced game. Going to be difficult for Seton Hall to cover a number like that, man. So that's what I look at in that game. Coastal Carolina and Grand Canyon is a weird one. But let me just make sure I'm talking about all the games I was going to talk about. I think I have except one, where Grand Canyon actually has a worse record than Coastal Carolina, 5-4 versus 6-4. But Grand Canyon's a 16.5-point favorite. So, what gives, man? The public is not going to lay 16.5 with a team with a slightly worse record. But that's probably what I would do in this one, though. Grand Canyon, I mean, they've faced a more difficult schedule. I mean, they've faced St. Louis. They're looking pretty good. Iowa, Oklahoma State. But they are coming off a close game against Oklahoma State, so I don't love that, man. Grand Canyon, that was a big game against a Big 12 team. Big step-up game for Grand Canyon. The game was in Phoenix, Arizona, so it was kind of a semi-home game for Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, they were an underdog in the game as well. Not a huge underdog, but yeah, coming off of that, I kind of don't love the spot, though, for Grand Canyon. For Coastal, I don't love the spot for them either, though, at all. I mean, they're having to go out to the Mountain Time Zone or wherever. Grand Canyon's in Arizona, so this is the first time they're traveling that far west, I think. So I don't love that for Coastal, having to go all the way out there to Arizona. And they're coming up a nice win themselves where they beat Winthrop. Winthrop, I believe, is also in South Carolina, so that was a big win for them against an in-state bigger brother in Winthrop. And Coastal was a huge underdog in this game, too. So probably around an 8.5-point underdog, I would guess, something like that, maybe more. So they're coming off a big win and in a weird travel spot. So I would lay it with Grand Canyon, but the problem is Grand Canyon is coming off that big game, so I'm staying away. They're up from 15 to 16. 141 is the total in that one. Next up, we do have my last play of the day is taking the 4 with West Virginia. I know this game is closer to Ohio State. I know it's a neutral site game against Ohio State. It's in Cleveland, so closer to Ohio State, although I think West Virginia will travel okay to this one too. I mean, they're not that far away. Both teams have pretty good fan bases. For Ohio State, I don't like the spot, though. That's really the deal here. Ohio State's coming off beating Northwestern in their Big Ten opener on the road, and then they came home and they played that close game against Illinois where we lost the game with Ohio State. Even though they were close, they didn't cover. That was a big game for Ohio State, man. Big Ten home opener in that one. Playing Illinois was ranked really high, and playing Ohio State played a really good game and played close to Illinois. Now they're coming off of that, and they got this ugly West Virginia team, and up next they got to play North Carolina, although I know it's not until next week, next Saturday, but still North Carolina's up next. I think it's a sandwich spot. Whereas for West Virginia, I know it might look tempting maybe to the public to grab the points because they're 8-3, which is a little bit of a better record, but I don't know, man. I think the public still is going to be more in line with Ohio State because West Virginia, they just play ugly. The public does not like a team that plays ugly like that, but I do. This is in the Cleveland Hoops Showdown. Now, for West Virginia, they're coming off an easy win over Little Rock, man, so nothing to really see there. West Virginia had taken a loss to Wake Forest in the previous game, but I think West Virginia, they're in a nice momentum spot now that they beat Little Rock after that. I think they're going to show up. And the other good thing is you're getting points with a team that's probably going to really try to ugly this thing up. I mean, West Virginia, they play really, really, really slow, which is already the case, but now it's even more the case with North Texas's former coach coming in there. He had North Texas playing the slowest tempo in the country. So that's not going to be what Ohio State really wants to do, and it's going to be easier to slow the pace down. Ohio State wants to go a bit faster. They're on the faster side. So I think if West Virginia could slow this thing down and make this real ugly, Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be more conducive to them covering this. I know West Virginia's the worst team, but they're actually the better defense, believe it or not. Their offense, it leaves something to be desired for sure. But West Virginia is also low in the rankings. I know they're not battle tested. They have a very weak strength of schedule, but in the luck rankings, I should say, West Virginia is also low, which means that they've underperformed so far, whereas Ohio State is higher up a little bit in the luck rankings on Ken Bum. Ohio State really hasn't faced that difficult of a schedule either, though, which I keep pointing out. So neither team is really that battle-tested yet. But he has Ohio State only 56th in defense, and West Virginia is actually in the top 50 defensively. So you're getting the better defense, actually, here, getting points, and a team that might be able to slow it down. And I think they're in the better spot. So that puts it in range where it's going to make my card, man. So that's what I'm going to do there. The line did go up from 3 to 4. It's expected to be ugly because the total's pretty low at 142, so I like that. So we got West Virginia plus the points in that one. Smart, Saab, yeah, the Wild are plump and gay. Yeah, they might be, yeah. A bait line, yeah, well, I like these small underdogs personally, yeah. That was their first win against Dallas in regulation in 10 games. Interesting. I don't even look into it that deeply, man. All right, let's finish it off. Bets, I'm going to finally get to your game next, but San Francisco St. Louis almost is on my card here, man. People are going to look at this and probably not want to lay it, man, with St. Louis, even though they got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar there, man. Robbie Avila, who was on Indiana State, he's got the goggles. I like him. St. Louis has a nice 8-1, pretty record, 6-0 at home, so maybe the public won't be taking the points with San Francisco, but 11.5 to me looks pretty big against a pretty good San Francisco team. But I actually think it's warranted, and I don't like the spot for San Francisco because they just got a win for us. That was a play for us on the show against Mississippi State. They caught Mississippi State in a bad spot. Mississippi State's down this year. That line looked really weird, man, with San Francisco only being a 4.5-point favorite. And the game was in Mississippi, I believe, although it wasn't at Mississippi State in Starkville, but it was in Tupelo. So that was a big win for San Francisco, though, anyway. And the line looked weird, only being at 4.5. So I jumped on San Francisco on the show. They got the win. But now they're going out on the road, and they have only had one other true road game so far. But granted, they played pretty well. They only lost to Memphis by 6 in their other road games. So, yeah, I mean, they are fairly battle-tested, so I do worry about all that. But I just think they're in a letdown spot coming off beating an SEC team like Mississippi State, even though they're down this year. And for St. Louis, the game they just last played, I mean, they had an easy go of it. They blasted Central Michigan, but I don't necessarily want to be on a team that just put up 100 points and won by over 40, but that was almost like a tune-up because Central Michigan is real bad. And for San Francisco coming in here, I mean, they're a Pacific Coast team, so really the only other time they really traveled this much was when they went to Memphis, although granted, again, they did pretty well in that game, but still, I like St. Louis in this one. I would lay it, but I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to put it on my card. They're up to a 12-point favorite. Total's up to 153.5. All right, SMU and LSU. Bets, if you're still hanging with me, man, I'm sorry. I know it took forever. SMU, yeah, they're 9-1 here, but they've had a pretty weak schedule up until this point where they just lost to Vandy in their biggest game. They did beat us and beat Mississippi State. They took our bet down on the show. They beat us when we had the play on Mississippi State. I was pissed. Mississippi State had the lead down the stretch. They should have won the game. SMU pulled off the win there. They turned around. They lost to Vandy also on the road. Then they played a neutral site game, and they had a big win against Texas A&M, man. And they won by 13, but that went into overtime, man. So the game wasn't really as lopsided as it looked. You're not going to see too many 13-point overtime victories, man. I mean, that's ridiculous. That was a huge win for SMU, man, against S&M. Oh, God, no. Against Texas S&M. Oh, God. SNMU, no. That's something else. SMU, that's a big win for them, man, against what they consider to be one of the big boys in the state of Texas. So I think they might be in a bit of a letdown spot here, having to play LSU in the Compete for Cause Classic, which is in New Orleans, so the venue definitely helps LSU. It's kind of a semi-home game in Louisiana. And LSU's coming off just an ugly loss, man, to Texas Tech, losing 82-58. I mean, when you lose that bad, I think you're going to turn around and play better. The only issue that I have with LSU is that was their first loss of the season. You know, I talk about when a team takes their first loss of the season, sometimes it does hang them over into the next game because they're not used to losing. They just don't play well. So that worries me. And the other thing that worries me is LSU's schedule is even weaker than SMU's. I mean, it's very weak schedule for LSU, with their biggest wins being against DePaul and on the road against Boston College. So I worry they haven't really stepped up in class well at all so far. But given the scheduling spot, I do actually somewhat lean to LSU here. SMU has taken some of the money early, so that agrees with bets there. It's gone from a pick 'em to a 2-point favorite. Totals up to 158.5. I actually slightly lean to LSU, but as for all those reasons I just stated, I don't love it, though. There are definitely arguments for both sides in that one. We got UC Riverside at BYU. BYU ranked 10th in the country right now. BYU coming off that win over Clemson, man. That was a big win for BYU. They came back. They had to put in a huge effort to come back to beat Clemson. That was up in Madison Square Garden. Now they're having to travel back. Not a great spot for BYU here, man. I know BYU is difficult to beat at home, though, but maybe Riverside will step it up here. The problem is you see Riverside, well, actually, maybe it isn't a problem because they did play at New Mexico, and they only lost by 14. That's a difficult road game, and it's a high-elevation game, just like BYU is, so they're not unused to playing in high elevation right now, so that's maybe not as bad as maybe it seems. And they're coming off a win over Cal Poly, which maybe will give them some confidence coming into this. So overall, I would lean towards Riverside getting the points. So you're getting 33.5 in that one with a total down to 154.5. So I would lean that way. The trades in the NHL, I don't pay attention to the personnel at all, man. What were the trades? I have not seen it at all. The huge game, maybe the biggest game of the day, the night game on ESPN, or the second to last game. ESPN's got games all day, man. But 9:30 p.m., kind of the late-ish primetime one. Number 1, Arizona. Number 12, Alabama. And this game is a semi-home for Alabama in Birmingham, Alabama. So it's not in Tuscaloosa. So not at Alabama's campus. But this is a crazy game. And my first reaction to this is, how high is the total here? Because these two teams, they're really good at scoring. They like to play fast. Arizona's number 1 in the country right now in the rankings. Alabama's number 12. Ken Bum has Arizona at 6, so maybe a little bit slightly overrated right now. Totals up to 178.5, and you know, I would probably still go over in this one. I mean, you're going to have two teams that are going to be running up and down the floor. Both teams are really good offensively. I know Arizona's actually balanced, more balanced than Alabama. Alabama's barely inside the top 50 defensively, which is not good. But Alabama's a top 10 tempo team. Arizona's 34th in tempo. Both teams are going to step it up, man. Although Arizona's the much better defense, though. So both teams are really good offensively. But Arizona, the difference in the side, I think, is that Arizona plays better defense, man, as far as the X's and O's in this one. Arizona, they're coming off blowing out Auburn, but are they really going to be in a letdown when they get an ESPN game against Alabama? Probably not. And Arizona, they've stepped up really well in class. They've played some good teams, man. Florida, UConn, UCLA, they beat all of them. So that's a good side. They're not going to be intimidated at all. This is the CM Newton Classic, by the way. Alabama's coming off an easy win over UTSA. Yes, they're battle-tested as well. They beat St. John's on the road. They beat Illinois. Good wins there. Nice wins against Clemson, Maryland, but they did take losses against Gonzaga and Purdue, and Gonzaga also speeds it up. Gonzaga is probably the best equivalent to Arizona because both teams play fast and have good balance, defense and offense. So Alabama losing to Gonzaga, you can kind of glean something from that here. So I actually like I kind of like Arizona in this spot, man. They flipped from a 2-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. I'm kind of relying on the fact that I think Arizona being the better defense is the difference in the game. Like, they're maybe the one team that might be able to slow down the opponent's offense to some extent here. So I probably prefer an over if I was going to play it because, again, it's a really high total for a reason. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But, yeah, other than that, I would probably look towards Arizona. Quinn Hughes, or you're talking about Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes to Minnesota, and the Oilers and Pens. Wow. Skinner traded from the Oilers. Wow, that's how down they are right now for Jarry. I don't think either one of those goalies is good, man. That's a weird trade. Hughes is a game changer. I don't know. Yeah, I don't hate personnel. I just don't factor it in that much in hockey. Because hockey, you got a lot of players on and off the ice, man. 4 lines, whatever it is. Like an individual player just doesn't impact the game as much, except for a goalie. As much as it does in other sports. Excuse me. The best 2 teams in hockey, what do you mean? Who are the best 2? The Avs and Carolina? Is that what we're saying? Or Dallas, maybe? Who are the best 2? I don't know. All right. Mississippi State and Utah playing on ESPNU at 10 p.m. We're almost done here, man. We're done with my plays. We have 2 more games that I'm really going to talk about here. If you want me to talk about any of the other ones before I get out of here, we will. Mississippi State coming off that loss I already pointed out against San Francisco, so maybe they will bounce back and show up for a game against Utah. Utah is really not that good. I know Mississippi State's down, but Utah's not great. However, this game is in Salt Lake City. There's this... I think this is the Salt Lake Slam or something like that. There are a lot of games in Salt Lake City tomorrow, so be aware of that. There are a lot of neutral site games, mostly like small conference teams playing out there, so you can check that out. Just make sure that when you're looking at these games, you check the venue, man, in these earlier season college basketball games. And Salt Lake, it's high elevation. Obviously, the location is more beneficial to Utah, obviously. Utah's coming in off barely beating Cal Baptist, so both teams coming off lackluster performances against smaller conference teams. Utah was coming off a pretty good game at Cal before that and beating Ole Miss the game before that, so they were in a bad spot there. They do at least have some precedent for beating an SEC team because they beat Ole Miss here, and I think Mississippi State is actually worse right now, so Mississippi State I think is pretty down. Yeah. Ken Baum's got Ole Miss in the 50s, and he's got Mississippi State down at 83rd, so they're really on the downward trajectory, although Utah's not good. He's got Utah outside of the top 100, so something to keep in mind. So Mississippi State is the better team. That's why they're favored, but they're down from 2.5 to 2 here. I would probably take the points with Utah because Utah's game against Cal Baptist was a game where they're staying in Utah. They didn't play well at home. They didn't play well as a favorite. We got a win on that one, by the way. I think we had Cal Baptist in that game. They got in under the number for us, I think just barely. Mississippi State having to fly into elevation here. San Francisco, a tougher opponent for them, so I don't love it, man. So, yeah, I would probably take the points with Utah. Then we do have number 25 UCLA and number 8 Gonzaga at 11:30 p.m. Eastern in Seattle at Climate Pledge Arena where the Kraken play. And hopefully Seattle gets the Supersonics back, man. That's what we want. I loved the Supersonics branding and stuff back in the day. Now they're the OKC Thunder. But, man, bring back the Sonics. And then they can play in this arena because the arena already is set up for basketball. So I think it is going to happen. Anyway, UCLA, they play really slow. Gonzaga plays really fast. And I think playing in Washington is more helpful to Gonzaga, even though Gonzaga, they're across the state out in Eastern Washington is where Gonzaga is. They're in Spokane. But will their crowd travel over to Seattle? Probably for a game like this. So I think the spot is better for the location is better for Gonzaga. UCLA coming off a win over Oregon, but Oregon plays slow. It's a good win. Former, Pac-12 rivals who are now Big Ten. I don't even know where any of these teams are anymore. That's a big conference win, man. That's a conference win for UCLA there. So that is a pretty big game for them. They're coming off 2 conference wins at Washington and against Oregon. So, yeah, they did play at Washington. So, yes, they did just go up to Seattle. And now they're going back to Seattle again. So, yes, they're used to playing in Seattle. But coming off back-to-back conference wins, and now they get Gonzaga. And Gonzaga plays fast, man, whereas Oregon really does not. So, I don't know if UCLA is going to handle it that well. And UCLA's other loss was against Arizona. And Arizona does play fast as well, although UCLA only lost by 4, and it was a low-scoring game. So, I think it was in Southern California somewhere. I don't remember if it was at UCLA, but I think it was somewhere close to UCLA. where was this game? It was in Inglewood. So, yeah, it was close to UCLA. But they did struggle a little bit with Arizona because Arizona, does try to play faster. But, again, UCLA did slow them down. So I'm kind of going back and forth here, like which way is it going to go? For Gonzaga, this is the Seattle Hoops Showdown, by the way. Gonzaga's coming off an easy win over North Florida after they came back from that huge blowout win over Kentucky. They did not have a letdown at all. They easily crushed North Florida. Now they get UCLA. I think they are going to step it up. I think Gonzaga will be the team to control the pace here, so they will, I think, be able to speed it up. As far as Gonzaga playing any slower-paced teams, though, I don't really think that they've really done that, though. Not to the extent that UCLA does, at the very least. Unless no, because all the teams they played are fast-paced teams. Michigan, Kentucky, Alabama. I don't think Creighton really is, though, and they did crush Creighton with Creighton coming up to Spokane. So I don't know, man. This is a game where I don't have much of an opinion on. The line has moved on Gonzaga up from 8.5 to 10.5. I don't really disagree. I would probably lay it with Gonzaga if I was going to do it. Total down to 148. And I will say that UTEP having to go out to Hawaii is kind of a weird one, man. I don't think that's good. Having to go all the way out to Hawaii, that's difficult. They played pretty well as an underdog at Seattle in their prior game, and now they're going to go out to Hawaii. It's going to be a difficult spot for them, I think, having to go out there in the bailout game at midnight here, one of the bailout games if you're interested. Hawaii's just staying at home. They beat some non-D1 team there. I would probably lay it with Hawaii in that one. They're up from 12 to 12.5. The total's low, though, at 137.5, and that will do it for the breakdown. Dallas, Colorado are the top two, yeah. Sonics return would be nasty, yeah, for sure. So we go almost 2 hours. It's like having the college football show back, man. It takes a lot out of me, but it makes my morning easier. So there we go. You got 6 plays out of me here for college basketball here. That's going to do it once again. We're going to be on Penn State plus the points. Again, look for the best number that you can on these. I don't know if the numbers are going to move in our direction or not, really. It's hard for me to predict that sometimes. George Washington plus the points. Southern Miss plus the points. Mercer plus the points. We got a lot of big dogs. We have the one big favorite, Illinois, minus the points. And West Virginia plus the points. That's going to do it. You can go see my analysis. Again, I'll put them out on Instagram as well with the short analysis there once I get to it. I got to get some sleep too, though. It's Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad. I finally got subscriptions. If you want to subscribe to me on Twitter, you can go do that too. But it's probably going to be mostly Uke content, although I don't know. Should I put these betting tweets behind it too? People, I don't get any interaction on them though, so it seems like it doesn't really matter. So I don't know. We'll see what I want to do with that. But check that out. Obviously, subscribe here. Give me good comments here. Let's boost this channel. Want to boost it up. Listen on audio, Spotify and Apple. We're up there as well. We're increasing the viewership and listenership, so let's keep it going. Give me good reviews over there as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel here on YouTube. Just did another Uke cover today. I probably will get it up on YouTube shortly. Got to get it up on Patreon as well. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. I got a few that I still got to get up on the Spotify Patreon feed for the Uke songs that are there. And you get requests, which I know, Charles, I'll look and see if you requested any Christmas stuff. I know you've given me way too much to look at, man. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get to all of it. Plus, I don't really know the stuff that you gave me very well at all. If I knew it, I would probably do it much more quickly. If it's a song I already know, I'm going to get it done way more quickly if I can do it. So that's part of the holdup at least. So my apologies there. Check out Losercast every Tuesday night where we have a panel of losers talking about even bigger losers than we are, man. So go check that out. Tuesday nights, the Losercast YouTube channel. It's up there now. So you can find that. I'll put it in my link tree too. I haven't updated the link tree. I got to get that up there. And then the G Spot, which is the New York Giants podcast that I'm going to be doing with Ben Weir. I'm guessing we'll start it on Sunday while watching the Giants-Redskins game, but we'll see. That's going to do it for now. I'll be back in the morning. Of course, we got to talk NHL, NBA, and a little bit of college football tomorrow. We'll see what other plays I add tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to have any college football plays tomorrow, though. But the one that I really like that's upcoming within the next couple of days, the line crashed already, so I'm not happy about that. But maybe we still like it at the line where it's at, man. We'll talk about it. You guys already know what it is. It's Old Dominion. I already gave it to you, so gonna depend. Like, I want to see, like, maybe at this point we just wait until game time because the public is gonna want to get some football action, and they're probably gonna lay it with South Florida. So maybe we get a little bit of a better line then. We'll see. That's gonna do it. Mr. Pinsey, Nate, thanks everybody for hanging out, man. Saab, Charles, JC, Money Bets, all you guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody there. Sometimes I try to call everybody out because there aren't that many people there. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for all hanging out, and we'll be back, in the morning. Peace.